I want to go over with you today the one thing that you definitely always want to be aware of when buying vacant land or any real estate for that matter, encroachments. Thank you for stopping by the channel and checking out the video today. If you would, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and leave me a comment. What are encroachments? I'm going to go over with you today what are encroachments and what they can mean for a deal. I'll give you a couple examples that I've seen in the field so you can watch out for those. I'm also going to take you on a tour of a property that I bought that had multiple encroachments. I'll talk to you about how that affected the deal. I'll also talk to you about who you can turn to for professional help when dealing with encroachments. So I'll also show you the survey that I got that showed the encroachments so you know what it kind of looks like. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So what are encroachments? Encroachments are basically just an intrusion into your property from a neighboring property. A lot of times I see these as DIY projects gone wrong. They can be fences, decks, they can be an entire building, part of a concrete foundation from a building, landscaping, basically anything that isn't mainly on this property. It's for the neighbor's use. The neighbors built it, but now it's on your property. A lot of times when I say these are DIY projects, a homeowner or property owner went in, did the project. They didn't have a survey or proper staking of the property done before they started, and they eyeballed it, and it ended up on your property. These can range in different levels of seriousness. There's different levels of encroachments from what I've seen in my experience, from very fixable, not a big deal, to basically deal killers, walk away from the deal. I'll give you a couple examples of what I've seen on that range, and then we'll get into the tour of the property and show you real time what we're looking at, or a real world example of what we're looking at in encroachments that I encountered in the field with this particular property, as well as the survey. So I have one other property that I'm doing a small RV development on, and the neighboring property has a mobile home on it. And the back door to that mobile home has some small steps, wooden steps, and a small deck leading into the back door. When I got the survey done, 4 inches of that stair and deck going into the back of that mobile home was actually on my property, as well as the fence that they had built. So I'll take the fence, no problem, and I can go in there with some carpenter crew that I have will go in there and trim off 4 inches of that deck and screws and redo it, and it'll be fine. I'm going to end up paying for it because they can't pay for it. I already told them it was there and showed them the survey. They're fine with it. It's going to work out for everybody, and I get to do the project and the deal I wanted to do. So I was fine with that encroachment, but I knew it was there before I closed on it, which is key. Another one that I'm dealing with is there's a where I dealt with, and this was a walk away from, right? So I was looking at buying some vacant commercial property on both sides of this warehouse. Well, that commercial warehouse had the survey, and it showed that about a foot and a half of the foundation and that entire commercial warehouse was on the property that I was looking at. And that's pretty major because that edge of that foundation is where the footing is, the building's there. It was a big deal, right? It was the whole opposite. There's no carpentry crew that can go in there and fix that in an hour and be done with it. So that one was run away. I'm done. Not gonna do it. I work with a real estate agent who had one even better than that commercial warehouse. He had a contract on a house, had a cash buyer. The deal was already in escrow, and he encouraged his buyer to get a survey. And the buyer didn't want to get the survey. He kept hounding him about it, and he eventually got it done. $600 survey, $500 survey, whatever it was. After he got the survey done, he realized that half of the house that he was going to buy was actually on the neighbor's property. Half of the house. Could you imagine? He was ready to sign without getting a survey or anything. So that's kind of the range that I've seen. And if you find yourself with a suspected encroachment situation, the person that I turn to on basically every deal is a licensed, professional, knowledgeable surveyor. They can go out there and map out that property. They'll show you the property lines. They'll stake them. They'll show you if any encroachments are coming. Now, if you're worried about trees or something like that, you can also have a tree survey done. They can map out that entire property and show you the boundaries and if there are any encroachments, and let them know what you're suspecting, and they can focus on that as well. The property I'm going to show you today, we're about to go on a tour, a video tour I took of it, had multiple sheds that were on the property line, crossing the property line. And there was even a shed that was on the property that I was buying, but the other property owners were using it. It was fully on mine, but they were using it and it was built. And this encroachment came about basically because this was all owned by the same person at one time. But I used the survey that the seller paid for in the negotiations. I gave them a price and I told them that I wanted them to pay for the survey. So they went out, they hired the surveyor came out, and that's what revealed these encroachments to me. And then I was able to use that survey that they paid for to negotiate and receive a $5,000 price reduction even further. And these sheds are really not a big deal. They're on skids. They can be pulled back across the property line if he wants to keep them, or we can bulldoze them when we go in there and develop it. It's not going to cost $5,000. So this one actually came in and helped me out, used it as leverage to negotiate the deal. Let's go take a tour of these properties. Let's check out the survey. Come on. Okay, so you see the survey marker there, and you'll actually see there's multiple, that fence post, and then 2 other surveys. The property next door was also being sold, so they did survey work on the property next to it, which is the property to the right that's more cleared out. The property I purchased is to the left here, where you see the brush and the trees. So there's one corner surveyed, and we're going to go to the back here, and along this back property line is where the encroachments are. So we're going to make our way back here, and we'll see some more survey stakes from where the surveyor went in and also surveyed out the back property line of the neighbor in this one as well. So this fence is the separation where there's a mobile home on the back side, and that's where all the encroachments are. So there's 3 survey markers there. You can see the rebar survey markers in the ground, and then the sticks also. Now there's the shed. You see that green shed? Encroachment number 1. So there it is. If that fence is the property line, you can clearly see that shed goes beyond that property line. And then the darker green shed with the white lattice next to it as well, encroachment number 2, which they're not a big deal. This shed to the right could be moved over. That shed right there with the metal siding is also barely on the property line, but goes over a couple inches. This shed right here is completely over the property line. You can see over there by that other mobile home, the other survey marker, and you can see, so that small shed where the wood storage was is completely on my property. I don't want it. We're going to do other things with this property, but we know it's there. We used all those as part of renegotiating the price of this property after the survey revealed that shed and those sheds were on the property. Now you see this chain link fence here too, way over on the property line, but it was all mainly to that there's a mobile home on the back piece of that property there. And so this was all owned by the same owner at one time, so it didn't really matter. But when they kind of subdivided it and split it off, this back portion separate from the mobile home that was over there. So that's where the issue came in. Those surveys revealed those encroachments. Here's the front property line here, front property marker for this survey. So you can see that chain link fence to the other neighbor is fine, no problem. And here's the survey. So you can see at the back of that survey where the property line is, you can see the encroachments, the sheds that are on the property line, and then the one shed that's completely over on the property line. So just gave that to them and said, hey, I'd like a $5,000 price reduction. They gave it to me. I'm happy. They're happy. So we've got 3 lots here that we purchased as a whole parcel. So